So my talk today is about how to present good and do other stuff good too. That's a super dangerous word. In case you guys didn't know, I don't actually have like that core grammar. Yeah, it's anyways. I just want to preface this by saying this is the most meta thing I've ever done in my life. It's presentation about presentation. Be careful if you ever sign up to do something like this. Signing up to do a talk like this is akin to doing a talk and have to spell perfectly. Or how to drink the most alcohol at a party. You'll be under so much scrutiny afterwards that you're just trouble. I don't think I'm by any means the best presenter at Pocket Gems, probably just the person nearest to Ajit when he was looking for somebody to do this talk. But hopefully, we can share some thoughts about how to present. So, I can't actually make you a better presenter. There's only one way to do that, and that is to practice. For a very long time. What's that? You suck at practicing.
No, I suck at practicing.
Oh, good. This is perfect. Because what I'm about to say next is I can't help you practice for many years, but I can help give you a framework for practicing better. So that's what today's talk about, is how to practice good to present good. So I was thinking about how I've approached presenting over the years. And I think one of the most useful frameworks I've found is to really think of presentation as a science. Think of it as in terms of a goal. There's something that you want your audience to get from the presentation, or there's some way that you want to influence them. There's all kinds of tactics. Actually, this is the next slide. Pardon me. Find what presentation to do. Explore all the possibilities for telling your story, because there's a lot of them. And then heuristics. See if it's actually working. So in other words, it's just treating presenting like as though it was a science. For those of you who need acronyms to go with your frameworks, your mnemonic of the day is CODER. G of is for goals. T is for tactics. HER, and then kind of crumbles from there. So the most obvious part of that framework is goals. You guys probably do this already when you decide you're going to give a talk. And it actually takes a few iterations. You don't get it right off the bat. When Rebecca signed me up for this, my first goal was like, oh crap, fill an hour so she doesn't kill me. And then later on I was like, oh crap, I've signed up for something that has to be amazing because it's about presentations. That evolved to make everyone a better presenter. Then I realized we don't have time for that. And then it just became to accelerate people by helping them practice better. What's a little bit less obvious is the tactics that are available to you, and that's what a lot of today's talk is about. That's what a lot of today's talk is about. Is for any given goal that you have, there's actually like dozens and dozens of possibilities for how you attack something, for how you storytell something. And before you set pen to paper, it often helps just to brainstorm. What ways can I employ to achieve my goal? So for this talk, I went through like 7 different options for what should we do together before settling out. That's something that I thought was the most feasible. And the third part of this framework is the most non-obvious part of all, and I think it's the number one thing that people miss when they give presentations. It's the part about heuristics. There's a few definitions for this word. The simplest one is probably just try stuff and see if it works. The see if it works part, I think, is the least obvious. When you try something, you need to close the feedback loop and find out if it actually did what you wanted it to do. So here's an example of how this goes wrong. A lot of the presenters, they're nervous, they're thinking about their next line, they're thinking about the comments in like the small part of their PPT. They just see the microphone in front of them, they're really worried, right? What am I going to say next? How do I sound? And this is actually killing your ability to close the feedback loop. Because there's no feedback if you're just looking at yourself or your presentation. Where your focus really needs to be is on the people you're presenting to. That's where your feedback is. When you practice presenting, you want to be constantly scanning your audience and seeing what your presentation is doing to them. That meaning is engaged, so you know whatever you're doing is working. Remember it for next time. That guy's disengaged. He's talking to his buddy. Maybe you're going too slow. Maybe he fell off the bus and he doesn't know what you're talking about anymore. That meaning is reading. Maybe you have too much information. Just slow down and let him absorb the slide a little bit. And this guy is completely lost. You might have to stop your talk, ask him why you're lost, and iterate based on that. There's a lot of fun ways to think about feedback. Do you guys recognize what this is? This is, they have this thing where they like strap sensors to people's eyeballs and track where they're looking on a page to figure out what really commands their attention. I think it's called, oh gosh, I don't know what it's called. Some kind of heat map. Anyways, you learn a lot by doing this stuff. For example, if you're in web design, you learn that people mainly look at your content in a capital E shape. They'll look at the top of your page and they'll look down the left. And so it goes for slides. You want to know what people are actually looking at in your presentation, because if you've got 20 elements up there, odds are they're only picking out 2 or 3. You don't just have to learn from your own talks, you can also learn from other people's presentations. Who recognizes this game? Anybody? Oh man, I misunderestimated you guys. Only 3? Alright, this is old school Monkey Island. There is something called insult sword fighting, where you fight somebody with swords, except what you do is you insult them, and if they could come up with a witty comeback, then they would win. Otherwise, you would lose. You start out only knowing 1 insult, and you get your butt kicked a lot. But you learn all the insults that they're throwing at you, and it grows your vocabulary. So I think the path to presenting well is a lot like insult sword fighting. You're starting with a few tricks in your pocket, and you're learning more and more as you present with other people or watch their presentations. So what happens if you use this framework a lot? You get better at defining your goals cleanly. Your storytelling vocabulary expands, whereas once upon a time you only had 1 way to say something, you now have dozens of ways to say it. And heuristics bit, you start to be able to anticipate how your message is going to be received. You've lost so many people and confused so many people and misdirected so many people. You step on their landmine, you start to cut them off at the pass and know where you can hold your attention and where you're going to lose them. So that's my go-over framework that I made up. The rest of the talk is actually just about that center bullet because I think it's one of the most colorful. It's really going to focus on different ways that you can tell a story with your presentation. This is just one way to cut up storytelling. I don't know if it's the official way, but this is applicable for every layer of the story. There's a certain vocabulary for laying out the plot of your presentation. There's a certain vocabulary for tackling certain bits of content, and there's a certain vocabulary for the dynamics that you add in your story to make it come to life and make it really interesting. So these are all examples rather than overall thoughts about presentation. Overall approaches to plot. How do you structure something like this? Say your goal is to pitch Ben a hog FPS. Find objects and shoot them. How do you go about trying to convince them that it's a good idea? What plot elements can you employ? Does anybody want to throw out some things that they might put in this plot? What is the vocabulary of convincing a CEO that a game is a good idea? Anybody?
Market is huge.
The market is huge. You might want to show some at-Andy slides about where hog is trending and where FPS is trending and swear that the sum of them is going to blow it out. The market is huge. Your goal is to get them to approve this hog FPS game. What else is in your working vocabulary to convince them that this is a great idea? Come on. Anybody know? Alright, here's the list I came up with. You might want to show them what it actually is, since it's so new. So you might want to show like a prototype. You probably want to show your audience a really compelling creative identity. So even if they don't care about the gameplay, they still feel like it's a great story. You might want to show them potential market size, like pointed out. You might want to show super mechanics, prove that monetization adds up to a certain LTV. There's dozens of ways to pitch a game. Before at Zynga, the chief creative officer actually refused to create a new game pitch template because he thought it would deprive would-be pitchers of the art of storytelling, of creating their own plot to sell the company on what to build. The next layer of story, content. So you've got your plot, and now you actually have to populate your presentation. There's a lot of points you want to make. How do you actually make them? So I'm going to read one slide ahead of this and just see what you guys think, and I'll show you some cool solutions that I've seen at the company. How would you illustrate the game's appeal in a slide? Graph. What's that?
A graph.
A graph to illustrate a game's appeal. Maybe. It's got to be a really good looking graph. So I thought one fun approach that Alan took to sell Iceland was to illustrate Iceland's appeal by evoking a common childhood aspiration. Pretty unique approach. How would you communicate a launch plan? So we went through a few iterations of this with just like lots of Vista stuff, but what wound up being the cleanest answer was just to like put a timeline out and just stick toothpicks in it. It wound up being pretty clear that way. Imagine you have to tell a team that the goal they're trying to hit is 60 million installs. How do you get them to feel what 60 million installs really means? A graph. Yeah, make a graph of like relative to other games. Any other ideas? Is 60 million installs a lot? Yeah, that's a ton. That's like a fourth of America, right? You could draw it as a fraction of America. You could take that American map and just like color 1/4 of it red. This is the tack we wound up taking. We wound up comparing it to things that they knew. So you might not know what 60 million is, but you probably know what Halo is, or Grand Theft Auto, or League of Legends. And this is where our goal stands relative to all of that. How do you get Helen to approve a date for your game's launch? All right, we can move faster after this. Sorry, somebody say something? Helen. Yes. All right. I'll keep moving along. There's a lot of fun ways you can express yourself. You can use math to express yourself. Show them the formula for the date. If you want to fight the mentality of the company, you can characterize it. This is a really fun slide from a talk about being a game developer. The speaker's point was don't be a game developer because you want to tell a lot of people exactly how to make a game, because that's not how it really happens. They wind up making the game based on the inspiration you give them. But he just had this up to say to illustrate that this is not how game development works, which was fun. To show how team feels, we found a way that worked was to put all their quotes up on a board, and it really got people's attention. To define different stages of the player life cycle, early, mid, and late, we actually made portraits of them. And this helped us create symbols that we use in other slides to talk about the explorer, who's in the first month of her gameplay, or the master, who's done all this other stuff, has collected all the units, and is onto other things. How do we communicate whether we're going to hit a due date or not? There's a lot of ways to do it. One way I like to do it is to do a burn down chart. This is the amount of scope, and you just see it sloping downwards, and you're hoping that it hits 0 by the time the due date falls. The point of all this is that there is a lot of fun ways to express different things you want to say. And the bigger your vocabulary, the more fun you can have with your slides. Alright, now I want to talk about the icing on the cake that is presentations. Approaches to how to make your presentation more dynamic. What kind of tools are at your disposal to make something come to life. So we have a plot for our whole presentation, and we have the content that we want to put on each slide. The slide itself is a little bit dead. The content is really stupid. You don't have to read it. It's chocolate is better than vanilla, and it's my argument for it. And I created 8 bullets for why chocolate is bad and why vanilla sucks. And this is where I start with my slide. The content is all there, all right? But it's a little bit hard to read in a presentation. There's a lot that I'm not doing to direct your attention, to suggest even that this is a comparison between chocolate and vanilla. So you have a lot of tools at your disposal. One tool is layout, right? Nowhere here does it suggest that this is a comparison between 2 things. So how about I split up into 2 boxes and I stick a big versus sign in the middle? Now, even without words, you know a little bit what I'm trying to say with this slide. I'm talking about chocolate and vanilla. Why use the words when I can use a picture and say a lot more? So maybe I'll change the background. Set the context a little bit more quickly. Now I'm going to start playing with my visual hierarchy. The slide is doing something I really don't want it to, which is it's stealing all your attention with these big white boxes. White is a very, 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 very loud color, and you have to be really careful when you use it because it draws the person's eyes to it. So maybe I want to tone that down because I don't want you looking at that. I actually want you looking at my arguments for why chocolate is red. So I'm going to demote them, make them high. I'm going to promote my primary elements. I care a lot about chocolate, vanilla. I care about my conclusion, which is chocolate is better than vanilla, so I'm going to give them a treatment that brings them out. I'm going to make them bold. I'm going to make them big. Then I want to promote my secondary elements. This is all visual hierarchy stuff. Maybe I don't think all 5 arguments are equal. I think the strongest argument is that chocolate was discovered by the freezing Aztecs, right? So I'm going to separate that out too, because I think it's a secondary element. Not as big as chocolate and vanilla, but I'm going to separate it out, because it's my strongest argument for why chocolate is bad. There's still a little bit too much noise. There's things I can do to actually demote my tertiary elements to make sure that you don't spend too much time looking at them and it's not too dense. I can give these an alpha background, so it kind of blends in more with the background. It's kind of hiding, it's kind of camouflaged. And then I don't really need this, so I'll just turn it gray so that you're less likely to notice it. I'll shrink the font. And then this doesn't really have any personality, so maybe I'll find some fonts that say this with the voice that I want. So I want you to think that chocolate is yummy, so I'm going to find some ridiculous candy font for it. Anyways, this example could go on and on, but that's kind of the tools at your disposal when you're trying to really express yourself with the content you have planned out. Regarding that last point about fonts, I just want to call it out. Every font has a very, very definite voice, so be really conscious of this voice when you're using it. Okay? Montserrat is actually like my favorite font ever. I don't know why. I suspect it's just because it really commands attention. Alan showed it to me and I've been using it ever since. Ashik used this one in one of his slides. What was it called? You know? It's like sleek, it's professional. I use this handwritten font when I want to like break the third wall and comment on my presentation from a third-party perspective, because that's what handwriting suggests. This is a really fancy font called Mojave that Susan found. It's really good for art assets. It kind of says don't read me. It kind of says I'm trying to be a funky artist. This is for decoration, it's decorative text. Comic Sans says don't take me seriously. Unfortunately, fonts do burn out, so anything that's too popular eventually says I'm trying to don't read me, which is unfortunate. So just to sum up that last bit, you have a lot of tools at your disposal. You have visual hierarchy. You have layout. You can say different things with layout. You can say different things with your font. You can say different things with color. Say things with art. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Say things with animation. An animation can be worth 1,000 pictures. Which is why I stuck in that little moving bar. This is actually something that comes with PowerPoint. I don't know if you ever played with it, but it's there. And it's actually very simple to use. Play with symbology. Sometimes if you're feeling like your content's a little too verbose, there's a lot of symbols in our society that you can tap into to make your statement. For example, if I want to communicate that something is just a plan, it's not final, I can either put not final over it, or I can just set it on top of a blueprint and change the font to something that's white with like dash chalk. Because a blueprint says this is just a plan. It's not something that's actually come to fruition. Yeah, there are many other examples. But yeah, there's plenty of symbols that you can leverage to communicate easily. Okay, so that's just my bit about the vocabulary that's at your disposal at different levels of storytelling. And now I just want to share some tips that I learned the hard way by screwing up a lot of other presentations. So here is my top 10. Tip number 1, respect your format's limit for information density. It's not a clown car. You can't just put 20 pieces of information in there because you want to. At some point, it's going to melt. The funny thing is different formats actually have different levels of affordance. So if you're going to do a big old marketing slide with a big picture, this is commanding so much attention that it's only really got affordance for maybe one bold statement. Maybe 2 if you get creative with the picture. If you've got a bullet list, people are going to hang with you through like the 4th. You're going to find that once you get 5 or 6 or 7 and you look at the audience and see like where they're tracking, they're gone. They're not reading bullet list number 6. That's not always true. It depends on the context of the presentation. It is a P&L meeting with elemental read. Flowcharts, they can grow to 5. At 6, they start to melt. Tables start to melt at 3 by 3. That's already 9 elements. Asking for a 10th or 11th is a bit much. I see this one violated all the time. I don't know what law of physics determined this, but slides tend to only have affordance for one single chart or one single photo. If you're pasting two charts side by side, for some reason the impact just like falls to the floor. I don't know what it is. If you want more density, there's other formats that can accommodate that. If I have a lot to say, one trick I'll use is to try to evoke a magazine layout, because that gets the person to come up with it, how he's looking at the slide, and just start to read it like you would the first page of Newsweek or Cosmo or your favorite magazine. And if you really got a lot to say, there actually is one format that is a cloud car, which is an infographic. So Nikki made this really awesome slide that actually like goes all the way down to like the first floor of this building. That is about the mobile game market in different continents and how well it's doing. And people love this. You can cram hundreds of bits of information in an infographic, and it won't melt in your face. Tip number 1. Tip number 2, for those of you who have stage fright, don't worry about it. If they're going to think anything about you, they already have. Tip number 3, don't leave your audience wondering what you're trying to say. Use your slide title. Give them the conclusion of what it is you're trying to say. Don't let them just scan the thing. You can give them the conclusion. You can give them the call to action. If you want to be engaging, you can try to get Socratic on them and ask them questions. If you really want to screw with them, you can use titles like, "Can you find the anomaly in this graph?" Guarantee you, if they're falling asleep, they're all just going to start scanning the chart. Tip number 4. Don't be that guy. That says, I don't know how to put text on graphics. You can always cheat. You can always put like a transparent rectangle behind it, and it'll solve your contrast problems. Tip number 5. I'm kind of a nerd about this. Charts are really, really hard to read, and there's a lot you can do to make it far more readable. I actually want to go through all 8 bullet points here, because they matter a lot to me. If there's one rule of charts, it's this. Your dependent variable goes on the y-axis, and your independent variable goes on the x-axis, because that's how charts work. The others are a little bit less important. First is put a lot of fine print here so that your query or your data can be replicated later. You're going to need it. If someone else doesn't need it, future you might need it 2 months later to make a comparison. So here I bring up all geos, all sources, put it in there. It doesn't need visual weight. That's why I shrunk it and made it gray, but you just need it as a citation. Be very careful with your chart title. If you do it well enough, you can even skip your chart labels. Don't screw with the Y origin. That's really evil, unless you know what you're doing. Manually change the default setting for the axes and the tick marks. For example, the default thing that Excel would do on a chart like this is put a little tick mark for every single date, and then the chart becomes completely unreadable. You want to manually set it to like take every 7 days, because that's a week. And you also want to manually format it, so oftentimes your chart will just spit out like, I don't know, too many decimals, like 0.0653 cents on the y-axis. You can cut all that stuff out. Oh, they're not showing up. Always use horizontal grid lines. They're really faded here. And relevant pause can help explain a lot about why the chart is spiking right now. Tip number 6, don't be afraid to pause and collect yourself. This is probably your best weapon if you're a person who says like a lot or a lot. You're allowed to pause. It's a normal part of speech. People won't think they're weird. And number 7, white space. Use it when you want to give your audience a break. This is one of object slide. It's a really pretty slide. Tip number 8. A lot of people are going to try to backseat drive your presentation, especially if it's a team presentation. Don't put anything in there that you don't 100% agree with, because the moment you present it, you have suddenly become that idea's foremost advocate. If you don't believe it, you don't want to become that position. Tip number 9, ditch the script. How many of you have spent years doing dramatic readings from like a script? Okay, how many of you spent like 25 plus years just talking to another human being? There's absolutely no reason you should be in the first mode. You're shooting yourself in the foot, you're not practicing at it. Nobody is. Just pretend you're talking to them face to face. My final tip is this: if you're going to send your PPT out, there's a lot of things you really want to do before you do that. Compress the photos. There's an option in PowerPoint to do this. If you use custom fonts, they're not going to show up on the other end. If you're using a Mac, export to PDF. If you're using a PC, you can embed the fonts. And the final thing is make sure it makes sense, even if you're not there to talk through it. So a lot of presentations are great, but if I'm just reading it later, I have no idea what it's saying because I'm missing the voice track. All right, so that was a lot. I just want to end this with a reminder of why we are interested in doing this and presenting for years and years and getting better at it and investing time and sweat into it. Because that well because packaging your ideas gives them a lot more consequence. When you bundle up all your thoughts, it's probably the wrong caption, it's a lot more communicable to other human beings. It's a lot more communicable even to your future self. This is how you remember the things you thought a year ago. If your thoughts are disorganized, it's a lot harder for them to spread to other people. Present in my dialogue, because dialogue is what sharpens your ideas. I've grown a lot by presenting stuff that was stupid, had somebody call me out on it, and then I knew not to have that thought anymore. Presents because it's social. It's a good way to stay in touch with people. If you do well, they'll give you a thumbs up, a pat on the back. They'll wink at you. They'll do all three if they're really creepy. Please don't do all three. And finally, storytelling is primal. Giving a presentation is just a form of storytelling, and it's something that you were born to do. People have been telling stories since whenever, and it would be a shame if you went through life without practicing something that you were naturally configured to do. And that's my talk. Any questions?
I would have another tip, which is something that you are doing right now, which is, I think, really important.